Also, this story this afternoon, a committee of MPs have said the music industry is weighted against artists, with even successful pop stars seeing pitiful returns from streaming services. They're calling for a complete reset of the market, with musicians given a fair share of the $736.5 million that UK record labels earn from streaming. In a report, they say royalties should be split 50-50 instead of the current rate, where the artist gets about 16%. The findings came after a 6-month inquiry into music streaming. In a moment, we'll speak to Scott Vlasis, who's a solo artist and streams a lot of his music. First, Kevin Brennan, member of the Digital Culture, Media and Sport Select Committee and Labour MP, of course, for Cardiff West. Kevin, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Well, this is a story that it pops up every now and again, doesn't it? Somebody has a moan, and rightly so, that, hang on a sec, back in the day I'd been making £1 trillion. Now I get a cheque for £37.50. Something's gone wrong.
Yeah, what's happened? It's a great new technology. You know, you can have the world's music in your pocket on your smartphone. For a tenner a month, or free in some cases if you take advertising. But it's been built on top of an old system where obviously people used to make money from recorded music by selling records, and record companies had lots of costs associated with distributing those records. They don't have those costs anymore. And so the way the economics works now puts a lot of money into the pockets and profits of vast record labels, no longer any British-owned ones, sadly, I'm afraid to say, the big ones. But the three major dominant companies, all foreign-owned, make vast profits from this, and they don't have those costs they used to have. And the musicians who actually are the bedrock of the whole thing, making the music that we all love and want to listen to, don't get their fair share of the money that's being made.
Yeah, and the disparity is quite huge, isn't it, here? I mean, I made that comment at the beginning, slightly exaggerated the numbers, but that is a common argument you hear from a lot of artists, that, back in the day, there seemed to be a fair system. You've just explained, Kevin, the reasons why things have changed, but it's not being passed on to the artist.
Yeah, a lot of them would say it's never been very fair, and actually lots of people, their music's now available when it wasn't before, particularly people who made records years ago, and it's getting listened to, but because of the contracts they were under, which have just been passed on to streaming from an earlier age, they're not getting any money. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some great people, great artists who really are able to make a bit of money out of streaming. Our report won't stop that, but what it will do is make sure that some of that money, which is set aside, trickles down, if you like, into the pockets of artists who are not wealthy people. I mean, they're average. We're not talking about the superstars here. We're talking about the people who are making less than the.
Yeah, I'm not shedding any tears for Chris Martin here. You see, that's the thing.
Indeed,
but I understand the argument.
Yeah, it's not about Coldplay, but it is about the people whose music we love, and we think, when we're playing their streams on Spotify or wherever, that some of our subscription is going to get to them, and in some cases they're not getting a penny. Yeah.
And so whose fault is this? The streaming services or the record labels who aren't passing it on?
Well, obviously the streaming services, they negotiate with the record labels as to what cut they get. They aren't in profit yet, although I'm not shedding any tears for them either. If Daniel Ek, the head of Spotify, can afford to bid to buy Arsenal, he's doing okay, I would have thought, even if the company's not technically making a profit. But the record labels themselves are taking too large of a cut, and they ought to be prepared, and it seems they're not at the moment, but they ought to be prepared to at least to accept that there should be a bit of that is guaranteed to get into musicians' pockets, a bit more than they get now.
Yeah. Kevin, great explanation. Thank you for that. Kevin Brennan, member of the Digital Culture, Media and Sports Committee, Labour MP for Cardiff West.